I am Leticia Velasquez. I'm an instructional designer with the Center for Teaching Excellence. And with me, I have Ping Ping Fu. Go ahead and wave. Who
Hello.
is joining us, and she'll be checking the chat. She is our GA for the instructional design team. And today on our Pedagogy Power Up series, we're going to be talking about objectives and how to develop clear and measurable learning objectives for your course. So our agenda for today, we're going to go over some basics, some strategies, and then we have a whole bunch of resources for you. I am very laid back when it comes to my training sessions, and I want this to be of use. So if you have questions, you can obviously drop them in the chat, but you're also welcome to come off mute. You should all have that ability if someone wants to test it for me to double check, but you should be able to come off mute and ask whatever questions you need.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Thank you so much, Matt. Perfect. All right, so the basics. There is a lot of debate between what a goal is versus an objective. Goals, as it says here. Ping Ping, do you have a question?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but seems like the slides on my end is not advancing. Are you still on slide 1?
Nope, I advanced, so that's good.
You would need to click on sync with presenter in the bottom of your screen.
Oh, is that me or Ping Ping?
That's Ping Ping. If you've clicked through the slides in Teams, you're able to advance, and if you do that, then you have to resync to the presenter.
That's good to know. I found a new button that said present in Teams, and I thought I'd play with it.
I like it from a learner's perspective. It allows you to move ahead of the presenter in case you're maybe wanting to take additional notes, but then you have to resync. Yep.
Thank you. All right, so I'm on slide 4, goals versus objectives. Objectives are very narrow. You have to be very precise in what you're wanting to achieve. They also have to be able to be evaluated or measured. So those are the really big things. And you figure out what your objectives are before you go ahead and develop your course. Like, it needs to be your starting points. Backwards design, you come out with your goal and then you work your way backwards into what you want to do. Objectives should also be written from a student's point of view. So an example, and pretty much if it's not this, it is a goal. So like a goal would be like, oh, I want to learn a new language. It's very broad. It's like, okay, well, what new language do you want to learn? How quickly do you want to learn it? How are you going to measure that you actually, learned the language? Are you going to pass some sort of test? Are you going to take a course? Like, all those things play into it, and what takes a goal from just a goal to an objective. So they have to meet these criteria. Like, it has to be narrow and specific, and has to be something that's actually achievable. So the benefits of effective objectives, it helps guide faculty and instructors on how to develop their course. And it supports what they're actually trying to demonstrate to their students, what the activities and content are. It needs to be aligned. That's definitely not something we're going to cover in this 15-ish minutes training, but alignment is a big part of developing quality courses, and objectives play into that. From a student's perspective, it tells them why the course matters. That is such a big thing and such a mind shift from, way back when, even when I was a student. Like, my professor said, did it, do this. And I said, okay, fine. But now students are like, why? Why am I here? Why am I wasting my time? Like, why do I have to do busy work? I don't want to do busy work. Why does this matter? How's it going to help me get a new job? Like, students need to know the why. And clear objectives tell them the why. You are doing this project because it's going to address this objective will then help you develop this skill. Students need to be able to connect the dots. It also helps them understand how your course expectations are connected to their success within the course. Like if you expect them to be able to define X, Y, and Z, and they can only do X and Y, they didn't meet your objectives. They didn't meet the requirements to be successful, so they shouldn't expect an A if they couldn't add in that Z. It helps students be prepared. Maybe. Okay. So at the very, 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 very minimum, these are the three things that your objectives have to be. They have to be specific, they have to be appropriate, and they have to be measurable. And typically, they'll start with the sentence, upon successful completion of XY, course, module, unit, students will be able to. Upon successful completion of lesson 1, students will be able to do this. That's typically how most objectives start. It's not the only way they can start, but it is the most common, and it keeps things, easy, like a template for instructors to follow. The other thing we mentioned, measurable, is typically like 90% of the time, 95% of the time, they need to include some sort of taxonomy. Now, I am personally a Bloom's girly. Like, I love Bloom's taxonomy. That's the one I personally use. I actually liked the revised taxonomy. That's my preferred. But there are other ones that you can choose from. Fink's taxonomy is also very popular. For me, there's some things that I'm like, I'm not sure how I would, share that, or how I can measure, how somebody cares. So that part I'd have to look into a little bit more. Other taxonomies that you could look into are understanding by design, and then Marzano and Kendall's taxonomy, or Kendall's taxonomy. I can click the links. Oh, as a viewer, that's awesome. I like that. So you guys should be able to click on any of these links. If you want to learn more, it'll take you to a jumping off point for your research. Like I said, I prefer Bloom's, but that doesn't mean you have to use Bloom's. You just have to find a taxonomy that works for you and use that. So, strategies for writing your objectives. The one that I recommend most, and the one that we have recommended on CTE's information, is the ABCD method. Sometimes people call it the CB or CABD, but it switches. So I just go with ABCD because it's easier. Who's your audience? What behavior do you want them to demonstrate? What conditions are they demonstrating this? And what degree of performance do you want to see? So, for example, by the end of this training, attendees, which are you, will be able to regularly apply best practices to their instructional practice. Or by the end of this training, attendees will be able to identify 1 to 3 instructional strategies that could be implemented this year. I've got my condition by the end of this training, by the end of this course, by the end of this unit. Those are your conditions. Your audience is typically going to be your learners, your students, and then the degree and the behavior. What do you want them to do? Are they, identifying, creating? Is it something, if you're in a 100 level course, are they recalling? That's where the taxonomies come into play. What is your action verb? What is the behavior that you want them to create? And then the degree is how they are like proving that to you. The other strategy that is common is the SMART method. You may or may not have heard of SMART goals, but they've taken that SMART goal and applied it to learning objectives. So I have two examples of what the acronym can stand for that I found that I feel are going to be really, really useful to faculty. This first one I really loved because significant. Your objective should be significant and deserving of your students' time and attention. It should not be busy work for the sake of busy work. Has to be deserving of your students' time, of their energy. Otherwise, they're not going to do it. That's just how, students are now. They're going to figure out ways to put in the least amount of effort because it's not what they deem worth their time. Measurable, how are we going to gauge our students' progress? What standards are we going to use? These are our rubrics. I love rubrics. If you're not using rubrics, I highly recommend it. Is it obtainable? Is it something that your students can realistically do within your course, within the certain time period? Like for me personally, when I see courses and they have to read like 80 pages of this chapter and watch these 3-hour videos and do this all within a week, I'm like, that's not obtainable, in my opinion, because you're not the only class these students are taking. So if it comes down to me, reading your 80 pages or turning in my paper for another class, I am sticking your reading in ChatGPT and getting the summary. Like, I'm not reading it because I've got other things that are going on. It's not obtainable for me to do given the rest of my workload. So that's something that we have to take into consideration when we are creating courses as well. Relevance, we talked about this. This is the alignment. How is it connecting to what's going on in your course, to your learning activities and your assessments? And then time bound is the deadline in which students have to achieve that. The one that I thought was also really cute is asking yourself these questions for specific, what standards or skills do you want to focus on as a instructor? How do you know when your students have achieved that goal? Can the end result, like I said, be reasonably achieved? Time-based, does it align with your course? The results-based, does it align with your course focus? That's your alignment again. And then realistic time frame. If you give them a week to write a 30-page paper, that's probably not going to happen in the way you want it to. But if you give them, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and there's steps along the way where it's scaffolded, first drafts, final drafts, then you're probably going to get more of what you're looking for. Here's an example. By the end of this training, attendees will be able to create measurable learning objectives using their preferred method and taxonomy. I've got my time. I've got my measurable results based. You're going to create something specific, measurable learning objectives. And then it is achievable because you have resources that we'll be sharing in order to achieve this. A non-example from Temple University. By the end of the class, students will be able to analyze philosophical text well. Like, which text? What's the definition of well? How am I analyzing it? Where the SMART objective for this is by the end of the class, students will be able to isolate Singer's obligatory giving argument and distinguish its major premises and give one reason why they agree or disagree with each. Like, it's very specific. There's the time bound. They're giving a measurable results-based product. So those are examples of using the SMART method. Resources for you that we have. Different universities. You got University of California. We've got a link to this that we're going to drop into the chat, or you can use your smartphone and get the QR code and it'll take you to the form as well. But we got methods for the ABC method, for the SMART method. These I actually really love, and I don't know if I click on it if it'll take me where I want to go. But Arizona State has a learning objective builder that will walk you through. But one that I found that I really like is Indiana University. I don't think it opened where you could see it. But if you click on that one, it actually will bring up Bloom's taxonomy and Fink's taxonomy. So that one is a really cool resource because, like I said, those two are pretty much the most popular at the moment. And you can go through and it'll create your resource, your objectives through like click, 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 type in what you want. They're really helpful. So this is a 15-minute-ish and we're pretty good on time. So if you have questions, concerns, reach out to the instructional design team. We are definitely here to help. We have broken up our instructional designers by college, although we're not necessarily bound to that. So if you can't get a hold of Abby and you get a hold of me, I'm definitely going to take care of you. Ping Ping's here to help everybody. So you can email the instructional design team, or we have our CTE website. Because this is 15 minutes-ish and some of you may need to leave, if you want to participate in our survey for future topics, right now it looks like April's topic is going to be increasing inclusivity, but we do have other options if you want to go ahead and take the survey and let your voice be heard. We want these courses to be relevant to what you as faculty are interested in learning. We also have a session feedback. So feel free to go ahead and take that as well. If you need to leave us, we appreciate any and all feedback. I believe everybody will have access to the recording. If not, I'm definitely going to give it to Craig and the CTE desk team, and then they can use their magic to make it available as a recording. But you should have access to the PowerPoint as well as our resources should you need them. So now it's Q&A time. Like I said, you're more than welcome to take yourself off of mute. If you're more comfortable putting your questions in the chat, that's fine too. But now we're just at the Q&A portion. Yes, Craig.
So how might you recommend a faculty to go about if they've already got a course and they're thinking about improving it? What are some strategies to sort of revise a course that you've already sort of laid out and you feel like it's pretty good? Would you start with evaluating the course and then building objectives, or writing your objectives first and then evaluating the course? What might be a good practice there?
So best practice is always to start with your objectives and to do backwards design. If the course is already completed and hopefully you have objectives, you may be able to go ahead and reevaluate your objectives and make sure that your learning activities and your assessments are actually connected to those objectives and measuring what you want. I know that there are a lot of programs on campus who have program level objectives, and sometimes when I look at those, I get like really sad because those are not measurable, which that's the programs, like I consider them goals. And I know that we can't necessarily change those, but it is possible to take it a step down and to focus on creating objectives for your learning, for your lessons or for your units. You may not be able to change your overall arching goals, but you can definitely refine those so that your unit objectives are measurable to what you've got in your course. They can complement the program objectives, but they need to be more specific. You can't rely on your program's objectives and to use those to build the course, because some of them are not measurable. They're more goals, in my opinion. And I know I kind of answered like your question and then went on a tangent, and I apologize for that. But that's where I would start. Ping Ping?
I noticed on the resource page there is something called objective builders. Can you show us how to work that?
Yeah, let me stop sharing. Let me see if I can do that because now I pushed the button. Okay. All right, we'll stop presenting, and then let me get to one of those objective builders, and then I'll share again. Okay. All right, so you guys should be able to see like a little computer with all these thingies coming out of it. So this is the Indiana learning objective builder. So it's pretty easy. You get started, and it asks you what you want your students to be able to do. So this is specific. So conjugate Spanish ER verbs. You know, talk about calculating standard I can't even talk anymore. Deviation. So you want to put your specific thing in there. So mine's going to be I can't spell. Measurable learning objectives. Dang. Ignore my poor spelling. All right, measurable learning objectives. And then I get to pick my taxonomy. And it does give you the base categories for each. Like I said, I'm a Bloom's girly, so I'm going to pick Bloom. And then I get to select my level that I want you guys to work from. So if I want apply, then I'll set apply and I'll go next, and then it'll give me action verbs that I can use. So I can have you, produce, use, implement. So I'm going to select implement. If there's a different verb you want, then you can definitely type in your own, but I'll select implement. And then what are you going to do? I like this. Like, how are you showing me that you can implement learning objectives? By creating 3 objectives for their courses. All right, and it gives you examples, hands-on activity, discussions, and then next, and then it gives me my outcome. Students will implement measurable learning objectives. There's a double by because I did that, creating 3 objectives for their course. You all want to make sure that you copy this, because once I say like, yeah, this sounds good, it goes away and it makes me do another one. If I say not yet, it'll take me back and I can start over and revise it, which I really like, because then you can go back and you can tweak it and change it so I don't have 2 buys. But it's a good starting off point. Like with most generators, AI stuff, it's not going to be perfect. You can also use AI. We just had AI week. Like, AI is really good at creating measurable learning objectives. You just go in, you'll tell it, use Bloom's taxonomy to create course objectives. This is what I want to measure, right? My outcome. This is the level that I want them to use, and then have it generate that, and then go in and tweak it. But if you do use AI, we want to be transparent with our students, and we want to let them know, like, these were generated using AI, because that's best practice to show your students how to properly use AI in the classroom. All right, if nobody has any other questions, then I wish you a happy afternoon. Thank you for coming. We'll have another session in April, and then that should be our last session for this academic year. So hopefully we'll see you then.